Welcome back to another Tera Plays Tera video. In today's video, I want to go over AA normal mode as well as mechanics in hard mode. Similar to what I did with the Ruinous Manor guide, I will have text on the screen for you to read as the dungeon's playing through, but this time I slowed down the combat. This is to help me explain the mechanics by voice. So here we have the shield bash. You want to iframe that or move out of the way. If you get hit by it, as you see someone in this team did, you'll get flung to the back. Next is ice puddles. Basically, there will be secondary aggro, it can target anyone, and you want to just drop the puddle away from the boss so no one gets stuck in it. If you do get into a puddle, you will be frozen. Flesh will be deleted. Basically, we'll have a knock up, you want to iframe it, and then someone gets targeted with fire breath. The rings. Basically, everyone on the team will get a bunch of rings around them, and you will want to iframe the outer explosion and the inner explosion. Some iframes are long enough to just iframe the whole thing. Sometimes you have to move around. Basically, everyone has it, so everyone's outer explosion will cover, and so forth. The mechanic you just saw there was a secondary aggro mechanic. Basically, someone randomly gets targeted with a big circle. Don't confuse it with ice puddles, it's a much bigger circle, and you just have to iframe it. It doesn't really hurt, and the bleed it causes, it can be cleansed off. This is the jump back mechanic. It can also be not a jump, and it's just a in and out. Basically, if the boss jumps backwards, he's gonna explode outside of the ring and then explode inside. You can either go in and out, or you can just wait for the in explosion and iframe it. Or the out explosion if you're a range. If the boss doesn't jump, then it's gonna be in explosion first. All these mechanics are also in hard mode. I'll go over slight differences, and most of them are much faster in hard mode. And there we have it, the first boss of AA normal mode. Here are some changes in hard mode. Flesh deleted. As you see, I got knocked up, and since I was the closest, I got targeted with the first fire breath. The second fire breath will always go to a random person. This mechanic is a red AoE. The boss will fill up the whole arena with a red explosion that you want to iframe. Healers can shield it so that you don't get knocked around, and then iframe the explosions as you see fit. For the second boss, I want to go over the debuff mechanic before we get to the boss, because there is a lot of information to cover this. As you'll see, people in this dungeon will call numbers, typically 1 through 5. You want to rotate this debuff between all 5 players. Now, if you're in normal mode, you only have to rotate it between 3 players, but it's good practice for hard mode to rotate it between all 5. So everyone calls a number. Typically your tanks will take first, and your healers will take 5th. So then DPS takes 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The idea is that the boss is going to glow a red or a blue aura. And when it's your turn, you want to take the debuff. When it's not your turn, you do not want to take the debuff. Basically, if you have to take the debuff and the aura is red, you want to stay inside the circle. If the aura is blue, you want to go out. If you don't need to take the debuff, do the opposite. Red out, blue in. That's basically it for that. Do know multiple people can take the debuff together, as well as if you take the debuff twice before the timer goes off, you die. If no one takes the debuff, everyone on the team gets the debuff. And here's what the red aura looks like. So the tank stays in, takes the debuff. Simple enough. Circles. Basically, everyone gets a circle around them. You want to iframe right as the explosion happens so that the second explosion does not hit you. If you get hit by it, it hurts and you will also be stunned. There's the spin mechanic. I explain it in text a bit later. Basically, the boss just spins in a circle. You can outrange it, iframe it, block it. Here's the jump. Boss targets someone with secondary aggro and jumps towards them. If you get hit by that, you will be stunned. Every stun in this dungeon is cleansable. And if you don't want the boss to jump to the wall during the jump mechanic, the way to prevent that is to wait to the last second to iframe so the boss only jumps to where you are. If you move behind the boss early, or too soon, or out of the way, then the boss will just go flying into the wall. Sword slam. Basically, the boss will slam his swords into the ground. You want to iframe it because if you get hit by that, again, it's another stun. It is cleansable, and DPS do be careful. It does hit behind the boss a little bit. There's the ground slice. Basically, the boss will take his sword, slice the ground with it, and cause a huge purple AoE and line effect. You want to stay away from that mechanic, just move off to the side. It doesn't hurt too bad, but if you're just about geared, it can, and it will cause a bleed as well. Like the rest of the bleeds though, if you're a healer, you can cleanse it. There we have it for the second boss of AA normal mode. Now I'll go over some differences about hard mode. The boss would do double swipes, so he'll swipe one side and then the next side, and then resistance has ended. Basically, that's just the boss attacking faster. Red mana. This is for the next boss, or for the final boss. I wanted to put the text here because there's a lot that goes to this mechanic. In normal mode, it's kind of a three-part mechanic. Antharoth will basically stab the tank, and then he will swirl, and then he'll slash. The stab can be iframed. You can move to the side, you can block it, or you can let it hit you. It doesn't do that much damage, even if you're at geared level. Out of all the mechanic or all parts of red mana, if you have to get hit by the stab, choose that part to get hit by. From then, you want to iframe the swirl, and typically you want to iframe where the safe side is. The way I think of it, if I'm tank, I want to go with the sword, so iframe with it, where it's swirling to. If I am DPS, I want to go against the sword, or into the sword. Basically, that's going to be the safe side. I will have that mechanic shown here, and we will see a lot of red mana throughout this video. Hard mode adds an additional mech to it, that when we go over that, I will show all 4 variants of how red mana works in hard mode and slowed down. So healers, typically you want to put a shield on people. For this mechanic, it's the starting mechanic. You'll only do this at the beginning. You want to either iframe that AoE, or you can have a healer shield or lancer shield to prevent that knockback. It doesn't really do damage, but it'll push everyone away, stopping the DPS. Here we have red mana. It now starts at 90%. So as you can see, I go into the sword. I went into where the sword was. And then I'm safe from that slash. Next is puddles. Basically, the boss will float up in the air and summon 3 puddles. In hard mode, it will be 5. Blue orb is something that the boss will target someone with secondary aggro and throw a blue orb at them. You won't always see the secondary aggro, and as you can see right there, he faked it. Patience not found. The boss will split into 3 versions of himself, and he'll do either the swirl attack or he'll throw orbs. If he goes to where you started the fight at the door, he's always going to do swirl. Right there now you can see the portal. If he spawns over by the portal, he's going to throw 3 blue orbs. The orbs will target random people. Final words. Basically, the boss will move to the center of the arena and summon a big pentagram. And you can see this pentagram is forming. Basically, you have all this time to DPS the boss, and you want to make sure you notice what color you have. So I personally have white, which means I need to find a primarily black orb, and I need to break that orb right before these ruins fill up all the way. And then I have a shield. Now there are several ways to damage mitigate this and to ignore it, and you'll see in the hard mode ones I just ignore the mechanic completely. But that's how you do it the proper way. Healers, you can plague or regress that mechanic to make it go slower than it normally does. This depends on the group. Some people want it fast, some people want slow. Backslam. Azeroth will take his sword and slam it into the back of him. Anyone who gets hit by that slam will be stunned. The stun is also cleansable. Here we have red mana again. You can see he stabs. Go with the sword because I'm in the front. And then he slashes the other side. Another mech that you don't see in this normal mode run, that I will point out in the hard mode run, is dispersing mana, or dispersing mana collected. Basically, everyone wants to group up on the boss, because you're going to be hit, and your healer needs to cleanse you through this. Basically, the boss does a big explosion, depending how many stacks you've built up by getting hit by just orbs or other mechanics, depends how much damage you do. And over time all your mana will get depleted unless you get cleansed. You can also see the boss do a front and then back slam, along with a jump. All of these can stun and be cleansed. And that's AA normal. Now we have hard mode, and this is at normal speed. Here's red mana. It's a lot faster. As well as now we have a wave mechanic. You want to get over the wave. Escape option. Basically you need to iframe the rings, and then he does a bunch of explosions. Tanks, you can block the explosion for yourself and your team. If the boss is enraged, you want to wait for the rings to stop moving. If the boss is unenraged, the rings will disappear and come back, and then that's when you iframe. As you can see, he just did puddles. Like I said earlier, there are 5 puddles instead of 3. This mechanic works the same as normal mode. Also, I forgot to mention in voice that if you get locked into a cage, you don't die, but you sit there and you are just stuck until someone breaks your cage or you break it yourself. You are stunned, it's not cleansable. As you saw a few seconds ago, There is a timer to this boss. Once you hit 50%, you have 5 minutes to kill him. If you do not kill him within that time, he will crack out and get super fast, and every attack is basically a one-shot, so yeah, kill him. Prepare to be deleted under 40% now changes. Instead of cages around everyone, he summons one large cage, and you have a color. As you can see, I'm red, and there's a red space on the ground. You want to be on that red space. If you are not on that red space, you will die. This mechanic is also a DPS check. If you don't break the orb, your whole team will wipe. And here is dispersing collected mana that I mentioned earlier in the video. Now we come to an end of the AAHM fight. Next I want to show some clips of just extra mechanics that I found in some of my other runs that I've talked about but didn't show. Front and back slam. Atheroth will slam the front and then the back of him. He can also teleport and do that, or he can teleport and swirl. Corrupted input. If someone gets stunned, he's going to do basically a swirl. He also has a jump stun. I apologize, I don't have a clip for it. And now we're going to go over red mana with waves. This video is slowed down tremendously. So we have our stab, we have a swirl to the left, slash to the right, and it is going to be an in-out wave. In front, if you're on left, it's going to be in-out. Next, this is from the front with a wave out. So we have a stab, we have a swirl, he's going to slash the left side, and now he's going to summon waves from outward. Here's red mana from DPS perspective. We have our stab, our swirl to the right. I iframed it and then moved over to safe side. And now in wave. As you can see, there are several waves to get over a wave. And then we have the last variant, the back wave. Or wave out, my bad. And now the wave starts from the outside and comes in. And that's my guide for AA Normal and AAHM. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed. See you around in Aboria, gamers.